Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. It was a Tuesday morning of an almost poetic calm in Charlotte, North Carolina. The sun filtered gently through the cream kitchen curtains, casting golden streaks across the lightwood countertop. In this peaceful, tree-lined residential neighborhood, birds sang in the distance and lawnmowers hummed softly, as if to greet the beginning of summer. Grace Thompson, a 44-year-old woman, stood barefoot on the cool tiled floor, a steaming cup of coffee in her hands. Her small checked cotton shirt was slightly wrinkled, as always, and beige linen pants gave her that casual yet neat look. Her brown hair, barely streaked with a few silver threads, was tied back in an unpretentious low ponytail. She had never liked wearing makeup or flashy jewelry. It wasn't in her nature. She preferred naturalness, sincerity, and simple things. The kitchen, bathed in light, smelled of toast and vanilla. An old radio played a country song she'd loved since college, at a low volume. This was the kitchen where everything had played out. Their son's hastily completed homework on the counter. Caleb, now 16 years old. The long nighttime conversations with Richard, her husband, around projects, fears, and hopes. Grace lived a simple life, but not an ordinary one. She had experienced the struggles with Richard in their early days, when they lived in a small apartment with secondhand furniture. She had seen her husband spend sleepless nights in front of a computer screen, building brick by brick what would become one of the largest technology platforms in the country. Yet, despite the billions raked in, neither she nor he had ever changed their lifestyle. No flashy villa, no bodyguards, no yacht. Just a big, comfortable house, a Toyota that still ran well, and lots of love. But that morning, something had changed inside her. It wasn't a whim, nor a sudden urge to consume. It was a surge of the heart. She remembered a sentence Richard had said years earlier, as they drove past an F-150 parked on the side of the road. "One day I'll buy one. But not now. Not until you get everything you deserve." This sentence had remained engraved in her. Richard had always thought of others before himself. She wanted, for once, to surprise him, to make him understand that she hadn't forgotten anything. She finished her coffee, ran her hand over the family photo hanging on the fridge, and smiled tenderly. She grabbed her worn but sturdy purse, checked that she had her wallet and the necessary papers, then slipped on a pair of sandals. When she got into her 2006 Toyota Corolla, the seat creaked a little. The engine coughed before starting, as usual. She gently stroked the steering wheel. "Come on, old girl, one last mission." She set off with determination, driving along Charlotte's busy boulevards. The contrast between her aging car and the gleaming SUVs she passed didn't intimidate her. She knew her worth. And more than that, she knew what was worth the man she loved. Her heart was beating with quiet excitement when she finally saw the bright sign. Prestige Auto Center. A vast glass building that resembled an art gallery, with state-of-the-art vehicles displayed under perfectly calculated lighting. Everything shone. The floor, the windows, the bodywork. It was the kind of place where the service is meant to be personalized, but where you often judge at first glance. Grace quietly parked, took one last look at her reflection in the rearview mirror. No makeup, slightly visible dark circles, but confident, and took a deep breath. She had no idea that this day, which started with a simple gesture of love, would trigger an unexpected shockwave. As you walked through the glass door of the showroom, Grace immediately felt that something had changed from one world to the other. The air was cooler, air-conditioned, almost artificial. A polite silence enveloped the space. Everything was spotless, too spotless. The polished marble floors reflected the white neon lights streaking across the ceiling. The cars, lined up like sculptures, shone under carefully aimed spotlights, like stars on a red carpet. Salespeople in impeccable suits and carefully knotted ties strolled around the room, exchanging words in hushed voices, their body language betraying a confidence mixed with a certain discreet contempt. Their smiles seemed studied, almost mechanical. Grace moved forward slowly, her purse clutched to her chest, trying not to be noticed. She just wanted to see Watford F-150 Limited, a robust model, with its imposing grille and powerful lines that had made her dream for years. She placed her hand on the cold, smooth bodywork, feeling the subtle vibration of the machine, the promise of an open road, of simple freedom. That's when he appeared. Chad Peterson. Young, probably in his 30s, he wore a tight-fitting navy suit that seemed to cling to his skin. His smile, wide but forced, seemed fixed, almost hostile. His eyes swept over Grace quickly, a judgmental look she couldn't ignore. "Can I help you, ma'am? Used vehicles are on the other side of the building." His voice was calm, but his tone clearly implied, "You're in the wrong place." Grace took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "No, I'm here for this model. The F-150 Limited." Chad stared at her with an almost inquisitive intensity, as if searching for a flaw, a valid reason to reject her. He frowned and took a step forward. "You know, this model starts at over $80,000. Maybe I can show you something more accessible." The word accessible hit the air like a clap of thunder. A blush rose to Grace's cheeks, a mixture of humiliation and a simmering anger that was boiling inside her. She gritted her teeth, tried to answer with dignity. "I know what I want, sir. I can buy it today." Chad then burst into a polite but dry laugh, a laugh that meant you've come to the wrong place. He tilted his head slightly, as if to better ignore her. "I'm sorry, madam, but I don't have time to waste today. We have real customers to serve." Without another word, he turned away, his footsteps echoing on the shiny floor. Grace stood there, frozen, as if petrified by this unexpected defeat. Her heart pounded, her breath caught in her throat. A bitter mixture of shame, injustice, and sadness washed over her. For a few seconds, she stared at the door she had entered through. Then, without a glance behind her, she left silently, the weight of this rejection resonating in every step. That evening, in the hushed calm of their home, Grace sat down in the living room, a little to one side. She watched Richard and Caleb, both deep in animated conversation, laughing heartily. Richard, still as natural despite his wealth, drank his tea with the same simplicity as when they had met 20 years earlier. He spoke of his employees as if they were family, evoking their successes and challenges with palpable tenderness. Grace, however, felt a weight on her chest, a mixture of humiliation that she couldn't bring herself to share. She wanted to tell him about what she had experienced that day, but the words stuck in her throat. It wasn't so much for herself that she was ashamed. She was used to the looks, the judgments. But for him, for this man who had built all this, in silence and discretion, who deserved so much better. So she just looked at them, smiling weakly, trying not to let the anger and sadness bubbling inside her show. It wasn't until the next morning, as the soft light streamed through the kitchen window, that Grace finally mustered the courage to break the silence. Sitting across from her, Richard sipped his black coffee, his eyes narrowed in concentration. She took a deep breath, her hands clenched around her mug. "Richard, yesterday, I went to see that famous F-150 you love so much. But they didn't even let me talk." He looked up at her, surprised by the seriousness in her voice. "Why?" he asked simply, without judgment. Grace looked down for a moment, then answered, her voice shaky but clear. "Because I didn't look like a client to them." A silence fell. Richard took a sip of his coffee, then placed the cup gently on the table. "Can you tell me the name of the dealer?" His voice was calm, but behind that simplicity hid a cold determination, an unspoken promise that he would not let this injustice go unchallenged. Grace nodded, relieved to no longer carry this burden alone. For the first time in a long time, she felt like they were going to face this together. At exactly 10 a.m., a dull, steady rumble shattered the peaceful atmosphere of the street outside Prestige Auto Center. A ballet of light and shadow instantly formed around an elegant, approaching figure. A Rolls-Royce Phantom Noir, immaculate, moved slowly towards the main entrance, its custom-made rims gleaming in the sunlight. Behind it, two imposing black SUVs followed, bumper to bumper, exuding an aura of protection and power. The Phantom's door opened with a flourish of sophistication. Richard Thompson stepped out, perfectly straight, elegant in a tailored charcoal gray suit. No ostentatious signs of wealth, no flashy watch, no flashy jewelry. Yet he embodied what was called a quiet power, the one that no one could ignore, even without screaming. His face was serene, but his eyes shone with icy determination. As soon as he stepped onto the floor, the salespeople inside the showroom, who had been busy talking, stopped, and rushed toward the door. All except one, Chad Peterson, who, seeing a customer of his stature, rushed to meet him, his smile fixed on his face, a mixture of excitement and apprehension in his eyes. "Hello, sir. Welcome to Prestige Auto Center. My name is Chad, and I'd be happy to help you." His voice sounded too high, too forced. Richard slowly looked up at him, scrutinizing the man as if weighing every word. "You refused to serve my wife yesterday. I came to see if you would treat me differently." Chad's face instantly fell. His smile vanished, replaced by a sudden pallor. "You're your wife?" he stammered, trying to understand, trying to back away. Richard then took out his phone and, with a few fluid gestures, brought up a photo of Grace, smiling, humble, but with a quiet strength in her gaze. He showed it to Chad, who paled even more, unable to look away. Then Richard, with an icy and perfectly controlled smile, continued, "I'm here to buy 8 vehicles. One for each member of my management team. But not here." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "I just wanted you to know what you just lost." Without another word, he held out his business card, shiny and elegant, and then turned around with the same grace and confidence as when he had arrived. Chad stood frozen as Richard climbed back into his Rolls-Royce. A heavy silence fell in the showroom, now deserted by its best customers. A few days later, the news had taken on an unexpected dimension. A local business blog, renowned for its insightful analysis and influential audience, published a front-page article with a striking headline: "Dealer loses $1.2 million contract for humiliating woman in jeans." The text detailed the case in detail, recounting how a simple, modestly dressed woman was rejected without reason by the staff of a prestigious dealership, unaware that she was the wife of one of the most powerful and respected entrepreneurs in the state. The blog denounced not only the lack of respect and blatant discrimination, but also the direct cost that this kind of attitude could have for businesses in a society increasingly attentive to the values of equality and inclusion. The story quickly made the rounds on social media, picked up by influencers, local journalists, and even equal rights groups. Prestige Auto Center became synonymous with discrimination and misplaced arrogance. The owner, under pressure and fearing a massive boycott, was forced to issue a public apology. He publicly admitted that the behavior of some employees, notably Chad Peterson, did not align with the values of his company or the community. A few hours after this statement, Chad received a summons from headquarters. His dismissal was quickly announced. He left the dealership, aware that his attitude had cost him dearly, not only the company, but also his own career. But for Grace, the real victory wasn't in the punishment or the public recognition. It was in the look on Richard's face that night when he came home. She heard it first before she saw it, the purring engine of a new, powerful, familiar vehicle. When it pulled into the driveway, Richard got out, a tender smile on his lips, holding a bouquet of fresh flowers in warm colors. He walked over, gently placed the bouquet on the kitchen table, then opened the passenger side door. "This one's for you, Grace." He pointed to the brand-new Ford F-150 Limited, gleaming in the last rays of the setting sun. "You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. You are everything I admire in this world." The simple words warmed Grace's heart. It wasn't about money, luxury, or status. It was the deepest recognition, the one that came from the man she loved and the unwavering trust he had in her. In that moment, in the midst of their simple but loving home, Grace knew she wasn't just a billionaire's wife. She was a strong, dignified, and respected woman, for all she deserved.